In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and shiny-suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is Emperor Palpatine.
What? Just because I'm sat here in a hoodie with my hood done up,
I feel like
doesn't mean I'm Emperor Palpatine.
I feel like this would work better if we were doing video. But when I send out the email that goes with this podcast, which you will receive before you're listening to this,
What?
I will send a photograph of Joe doing his very best Emperor Palpatine impression.
Right.
Thanks for the gurgling there.
Cheers. I'm thirsty.
Today's podcast is brought to you by water and what are you drinking?
Ribena.
Other soft drinks are available.
Yes, indeed. It was nearly going to be Ribena and cake.
Oh my god, Okay, so I had a 40th birthday last week.
I thought you weren't telling everybody that.
Why?
Oh, okay, fine.
I don't mind being 40. And at the weekend, we went to my mum and dad's house for a family get-together, which it turns out they had turned into a huge party, which was amazing and a bit overwhelming and fabulous. And they'd asked me what I wanted for my birthday, for my 40th. And I said, I don't really want anything. I just want like a family party. And then I was like, ooh, I would really like a cake like you used to make me when we were little. My mum and dad used to make the most fabulous cakes. So they made my brother a golf course because he liked golf when he was a kid. And they made me a riding stables because I rode horses. And they made a teddy bear cake and a sailing boat cake and a fort and a fairy princess castle. And they just made these amazing cakes. And so I was like, I would love one of those. Just, because it was kind of nostalgic and all the rest of it. And then I didn't really think anything much of it. And then I got a bit excited every now and then. And then when we turned up, they had made... oh my god, the most incredible circus-themed cake. Wasn't it amazing?
It was rather amazing.
It's
very unlikely.
Yeah. I was totally blown away by it because it was just incredible. I will put pictures up on... I'm quite surprised I haven't written an email about this already, actually. By the time you listen to this podcast, there may be an email about it, but I will put pictures up on my blog. And if you follow me on Instagram at treefrogtoe, you will find pictures on there, and I've put them all over Facebook as well. So,
but the upshot of Vicky's parents making a circus-themed cake is that we are now, even after giving away as much cake as we could possibly give away, our kitchen is now still full of cake.
Yes.
We have kilos and kilos of cake. We're going to live on cake, basically, for the next fortnight.
Yeah, we're both going to get really fat over the next couple of weeks. Or just eat nothing but cake, because I don't think that will make us fat, just maybe spotty.
Maybe a bit malnourished. I don't know what the vitamin content of cake is.
Well, it's fruit cake.
Yeah.
It's got fruit in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, all the food groups.
Marvellous.
Yeah. So that was great. And that's basically what we've been up to for the last week, really, isn't it?
It
Celebrating my birthday.
We, aside from the birthday celebrations, we vaccinated some sheep.
Yep. We've got...
Which is hilarious fun. Hilarious fun.
Yeah. Well, Bronson has developed a limp now just to make us feel guilty.
It's a passive-aggressive limp.
It's a passive-aggressive limp, yeah. He's otherwise perfectly fine, but just kind of gazes at me with this face that's like, what have you done to me?
Is he still limping today?
Much less.
Good.
Yeah. I think maybe I hit a nerve or something. So, but yes, he's fine. And yeah, so... I've got a fantastic new collection of bruises because I'm training for a trapeze competition at the moment, putting together a trapeze routine, and I'm working really hard, and I am covered in brand new and spectacular... I look like I've been hit by a train, basically. So that's fun. Anyway, but back to the podcast.
What are we doing?
This week we are talking about how long it should be.
Okay.
Because... it's not the size that counts, it's what you do with it.
End of podcast.
Yes.
We're done.
Yay! So yeah, it's all about books, because quite often I get asked, how long should my book be?
That question is kind of asked from a position of fear, isn't it? It's like I feel like I should write a book, but I'm scared and it's enormous and
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
And it is. It's all of those things. It's scary. And so it's perfectly natural for somebody to go, oh, how long should it be? Because then you've almost got like a target to aim for. But that's actually, it's not really a very helpful way of looking at it.
It's not really like when you were at school and you had to write a 2,000-word essay, so you just kept writing until you got to 2,000 words.
Yeah, which is what people tended to do. But yeah, I mean, like Winston Churchill said about speeches, a good speech should be like a woman's skirt, long enough to cover the subject and short enough to create interest. Also could be applied to any writing, including your non-fiction book.
Mm-hmm.
Or your fiction book. Or anything, really. So
Length of things.
the length of things. There should be just the right amount of length. Oh, there's baby birds on our bird feeder. I think that's a baby goldfinch. No, it's too big. I don't know what that is. It's cute. Anyway, so yeah, size is actually not terribly important.
Hooray!
Why are you laughing?
Size is not terribly important.
Right, okay. But before we get, because I am going to talk a bit obviously about size and the problem with size and why it does not matter. But before I do that, I just wanted to make one thing very clear. I am talking about self-publishing, not traditional publishing, and I'm talking about non-fiction, not fiction. Because fiction has its own rules. Wait, what?
I'm going to have to recount a story of today at work. Sorry, I forgot all about this. We should have done this right at the start.
Go on then.
I'm going to derail you for a minute.
Go on.
Okay, so I'm in a conference room. We've got some important visitors coming from a fairly major company.
I thought you were going to name them then.
No. And I realised that there's like 5 of my gang in the room, and there's going to be 5 or 6 of these guys coming in, and there's not enough places to sit. But what we have got is a big stack of folding table things, like quite snazzy conference tables that fold up. So they're all stacked against the wall. So we think, oh, Jesus, they're going to be here any minute. We better grab a couple of tables and rearrange this a bit. So we shuffle everything up a bit and we unfold the table and we stick it down and we shuffle things around a bit and we pull out a few more chairs and it's like, oh, okay. And then literally like people start arriving in reception and it's like, okay, right, we got to stop here now. And just at the point where they start arriving and walking in the door, I realise that what we've successfully done is arrange the tables in the shape of an enormous penis.
Did you take a picture?
Yes.
Did you? Yay! Okay.
And actually, better than that was that there was a guy. You know, we moved offices recently.
Yeah.
There was a guy sent by the builders, the guys who sorted out the building for us, and he was wandering around the building taking pictures so that they could put it in their portfolio. So all of his pictures of our major conference room have all the tables arranged in the shape of a rather large penis.
That's a great story, Joe.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. When Joe first started telling that story, I was a bit rolly-eyed because I was like, "Oh, what's this going to be all about?" But that was acceptable.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Good.
welcome.
It made me chuckle.
Good. It made me chuckle as well, and hopefully, dear listener, it made you chuckle too.
I will dig out a picture and send it to you.
Excellent, and I will publish it for the benefit of the listeners. Right, can I carry on?
Please continue.
Thank you. Okay, so I am talking about self-publishing business books, not traditional publishing, and I'm talking about non-fiction and not fiction, because fiction has its own rules. And unless you're like J.K. Rowling or something, it's probably a good idea to follow the traditional publishing industry's fiction rules, because people tend to expect, epic fantasy is like a bazillion words long.
Yes, you've got to introduce 300 characters in the first page.
Yep. So that there are kind of guidelines that that romance novels tend to be about the same length. Detective novels tend to be more or less the same length. So there are conventions. And similarly, if you're looking to get published your non-fiction book published by a traditional publisher, it is a good idea to follow their guidelines, because otherwise you're unlikely to get published. If you start off by breaking their rules, it's not a great start. But when it comes to self-publishing, you can really do what you want. That's one of the beauties of self-publishing over traditional publishing. But because of that, it's almost less helpful to be able to do whatever you want, because at least if a publisher says to you, your fiction book needs to be 60,000 words, then you're like, oh, okay, that gives me that target.
Yeah.
Not necessarily helpful when it comes to writing an interesting book, but at least it gives you somewhere to start. But when you're self-publishing, I think quite a common mistake for authors to make when they're writing a business book is that they think it needs to be this massive, big, thick, weighty tome. Because it is a scary thing to do. Like you said at the beginning, it's a scary thing to do. And we all suffer from imposter syndrome, and that leads us to fear, and fear leads to overcompensation, and overcompensation leads to a boring, fluffy, giant manuscript. So I don't know if you've noticed, but one of the things that happens when people aren't really sure about what they're talking about is they tend to waffle.
They go on a bit.
They do go on a bit. And I think, sometimes it's down to nerves, but sometimes it's down to, not really knowing... sometimes it's down to not really knowing enough about what you're talking about, but a lot of the time it's just nervousness. It's like, not being confident enough to state, this is a thing, it is fact, here is my evidence, next thing. Do you know what I mean?
There I shall stop.
There I shall stop, yes. I don't need to over-egg the egg. Pudding? So, basically, that was a really long-winded way of saying your worth as an expert does not depend on the size of your book, it depends on the size of your message. Well, it depends on your message, not the size of your message. You know what I mean?
Clarity, that's the thing.
Podfly can edit that last sentence out if you like. Your worth as an expert does not depend on the size of your book, it depends on your message.
Hi, Podfly guys.
That's a tweetable. If you fancy tweeting that to people, together with my waffle, then go for it. So yeah, and the reason that I think it's a common mistake for people to kind of panic and over waffle and fill their book with fluff is...
You have to make this a really short podcast at this point, you realise, don't you?
Why?
It's because to cut the waffle.
Oh, but I've got, relevant stuff to say. You're causing waffle. Yeah, I think it's quite a common mistake, because if you have a look on Amazon, have a look, just pick books at random, pick business books at random, and look at some of the low star reviews, just look at a bunch of them. You will quite likely find that some of them complain that the writer could have covered the subject in, half the number of pages. I've seen that quite often in books. I've read a few books as well that I think it's a really great message, but dude, you could have done that in half the pages. One of the ones that I think it's like The One Thing. Can you hear whiskey? Shall I let her in?
I can hear whiskey.
Yeah. Talk.
Ooh, God, where did we get to? So yeah, you'll find reviews on Amazon and other places where people complain of waffle. It
Yes.
really could have been done in fewer words.
Yeah. And like I just said, there's a really great book or a really great concept called The One Thing, and it's basically about focusing on one thing at a time. And this guy, I can't remember who wrote it now, it's terrible. And it's a big best-selling business book. And I think, and I've seen other reviews that said the same, that, the first chapter or even the introduction is enough, is done it. The rest of it is kind of just repeating the same idea and using lots of examples. I've got no problem, by the way, with using many stories and examples to illustrate things, but you don't need more than one or two examples of something, because beyond that it just becomes, oh, there's that again.
A whole book of examples is unnecessary.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. So, yeah, just have a look. Just have a look through Amazon reviews and see. It's quite a common problem. If you know your subject really well enough to write about it in fascinating detail, and if you feel confident in what you know, you will have no trouble writing a concise, compelling book. There's no need to worry that unless you have a really big book that you won't be taken seriously. Because if you have the right amount of junk in your trunk, you don't need any padding. That's true.
Right. Okay.
Drag queens know that. Okay, but let's talk a little bit about practicality, because there are some practical things to consider when it comes to printing your book.
Needs to look like a book.
Yes.
Needs to not look like a pamphlet.
Okay, yeah, it needs to not look like a pamphlet. But that's not really a practicality thing, but it is a good point. Practical-wise, if your book is fewer than 100 pages long, your printer might have trouble printing the title and name on the spine.
Okay.
So that's something to consider. 100 pages is somewhere between 35 and 40,000 words-ish. The average non-fiction book, if such a thing exists, is around 50,000 words. But don't let that dictate your writing, because if your book is less than 100 pages, that's not the end of the world. You can always print it without any spine printing. You don't have to have printing on the spine. It's better if you do, because you can see what it is when it's in a bookcase, but it's not the end of the world. Or, if you can release it as an ebook edition only. If your book is short but it's brilliant, then don't pad it just to create extra pages.
Sure.
Because you'll ruin it. If you really, really, really need to add more pages, instead of padding it with filler and fluff, just consider what extra value that you could add, perhaps in appendices. Can you include examples of what you talk about? Can you include exercises for readers to do so they can put what you're talking about into action? You can include a blank page at the end of every chapter for people's own notes.
Could you give them the first chapter of your next book?
You could give them the first chapter of your next book. Yeah, you can include essays or articles that you've written that didn't quite fit in the book, but you might want to include as extra material. That's what the appendices are for. Would your book benefit from a glossary or an index? Indexes usually take up, up to 10 pages. You can add quite a lot of extra pages that way. So there are other ways that you can add bulk to your book if that's what you really feel that you need to do. But don't pad it just for the sake of it, because that you'll kill your book.
Yeah,
you really will, and it's a real shame. Because the most important rule of writing anything ever is don't be boring. So if you write with that in mind, rather than how long your book should be, your book will be much better for it.
Sure.
Writing to a specific word count is just stressful and unhelpful, and you will end up with repetitive, boring waffle.
Seems reasonable.
It does. Okay, so how do you avoid being boring, Joe?
Well, frankly, I don't.
That's not true. You're not boring. You just told us a very amusing story about a penis table.
Well, yeah, but that's it. That was my day, basically. Chuckling to myself about an enormous penis table.
Okay, so you've got no tips for our listeners on how to avoid being boring. Shall I give them some tips?
Oh, I think you probably should.
Okay.
You prepare for this stuff much more than I do. I just turn up and sit down with me Vimto.
Okay, so you know how in tumble dryers there's a lint trap and you have to empty it every now and then?
I have been aware of such things.
So you need a lint trap for your book as well.
This is
tips end.
That's the sound of me staring blankly at Vicky.
Okay, so I have when I write in Scrivener. You can write in whatever medium you like, but I have a folder in Scrivener that I entitled the lint trap. And whenever I write something that doesn't really fit anywhere else or that feels waffly, if I can't bear to delete it because I can't bear to murder my darlings, I will shove it into the lint trap.
Okay.
So that's where you need to capture all of the fluff. And you can do it, the best time to do this, you need to do it in several points when you're writing a book, but the first time that you want to be paring down your book to make sure that you haven't got any unnecessary fluff and waffle in there is right after you've written the outline.
Right.
So, and the way that we do this is you've kind of got your outline down and you go back to your big idea. What is the main message that you want to get across to your reader? What's the purpose of your book? What do you want your reader to get out of it? Go through your outline and have a good look at it, because if there's anything in there that doesn't relate directly to any of those things, like doesn't relate directly to the purpose of your book, to what you want your reader to get out of it, that doesn't relate directly to the ideal reader, this is the point that you need to take it out. And that doesn't mean that you can just throw it away and never use it again. You can put it in your lint trap and use it for something else.
Be all kinds of good stuff for future articles or different books or all sorts of good stuff. Yeah. It's just probably not going in this book.
Yeah, exactly. And so what you don't want to happen is that your outline mushrooms and balloons into this thing because you're like, oh, I kind of want to talk about that. That's related to that. That's related to that. If it's not directly related to the main message, then get rid of it. You can always put it back in later if you decide that it is relevant.
Yeah.
But start nice and lean if you can. And when you've done that, and then you'll kind of write your book. You'll do the first draft of your book and do a bit of editing, and you'll do the same thing again. You'll go through it. Does this really add anything? Have I said the same thing 43 times? Because that sometimes happens because you just want to get your ideas down on paper super fast. And then you're like, oh, I recognise that. Because I did that in my first draft, didn't I? You were like, you've told this story before.
You've done this before, yes. You've covered this elsewhere.
And you were right, I had. And
Thank you. I can read.
But when I looked at the comment that you put on it, I was like, what? And you don't notice yourself because you're just trying to get all of your ideas down on paper and you're writing as quickly as possible. And so you need someone else to read it and go, oh, hang on a minute, I'm sure I just read that a few pages ago. So that's really important. So once you've done your first draft and then gone through it yourself and kind of trimmed it down. Then you need to give it to as many beta readers as you can and ask them to tell you what they think as well. So, do they think there's too much information? Do they think there's not enough information? Is it confusing? Is it boring? And you need to give it to people who are going to be honest with you about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you don't want is just people going, oh, it's really great, I love your writing, and blah, 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 which is nice to hear.
No bloody use
but not necessarily terribly useful. What you want is people who will tell you that because you need a bit of an ego stroke, but also who will say, you know what, I'm not sure this bit quite works, or I think you've repeated yourself here.
Why isn't this bit closer to the front?
Yes, which is, I've had some really, really useful conversations with my beta readers over the last few weeks, and I'm going to change the structure of my book based on them because they've pointed some things out, and I've been like, wow, you're totally right. Even though that's the logical way to write the book, actually a better way to write it for the reader is this way. So I'm making quite a lot of changes, and I'm really glad about it. And that's why my book, by the way, is taking so much longer to come out, because I could have just thrown it together and, the first draft would have been okay, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, after you'd gone through it and I've made some changes, but that second draft would have been okay. Would have been at least as good as a load of other books out there.
Yeah.
But that wasn't good enough for me. I want it to be a brilliant book. So that's why this is me making excuses for why my book's taking longer. But they're not excuses. They're good reasons. Yeah. And this is another bonus lesson for you, I guess. If you can write to a deadline, and it's a good idea to have a deadline and a time goal. But if you get to that deadline and you realise that actually your book isn't good enough, and that you can make it better, and a bit more time and effort will make it better, then don't beat yourself up about having it take longer. This is a really big deal. It's not just an article that you're chucking out onto the internet. It's a book, you're gonna get it printed, and it's gonna cost a lot of money to get it printed. It's a hefty investment. It's gonna be about £1,000. Depending on how many books that you print, certainly a few £100. Make it as good as it can be. If it takes longer, so be it. People will wait.
You don't want to make a quick decision that means in 12 months' time, when you're looking at your book, you think, ugh, I skimped on that. I really should have spent a bit more time there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I look back on my first book, and I'm really pleased with my first book. My first book has helped a lot of people to start and improve their new businesses. But I'm at some point going to write a second edition of it, because there are many, many bits of that book that I'm not happy with. Some bits that I've changed my mind on completely.
Sure.
Because I wrote it years and years ago when I was still a baby business owner. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with spending a lot of time editing your book, making sure that you're getting rid of all the fluff, making it the best that it can be.
And to be honest, that's the editing and the de-fluffing and the beta readers and, going from shitty first draft to final copy. I think that's probably as long a process as writing the damn thing.
At least as long, yeah. Yeah, getting all of your words and thoughts down on paper on the first draft. I mean, so it takes some people longer than others, and that's fine. But for me, I can do that process quite quickly. It's the editing process, like you say, it's the editing that takes a lot longer, because I will, as I go through it, and as other people go through it, we'll all be like, oh, you know what? I need to talk about that a bit more. Oh, there's a whole bunch of research here that I didn't know about that I've now found that I can incorporate into my book.
Yeah.
Or, I haven't brought this idea in, and actually I think that's really important and I want to add it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you finish writing your book on a Monday and you're publishing it on, next Friday.
No. There are certain people on the internet who shall remain nameless who do that. I personally think that's a terrible way to write a book. I think it devalues the idea of books altogether.
Yes.
And, I have opinions on that, and we'll do another podcast on that at some point. In fact, that was going to be this podcast, that we were going to be why you shouldn't write a book, but we'll do that in the future.
Cool.
So, yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, basically, just remember there's really no right or wrong length for your book. The most important thing is it interesting, useful, valuable, and entertaining? Because if it is all of those things, then you're doing really well. So, yeah. What's the takeaway, Joe?
Edit it. Edit ruthlessly. Edit ruthlessly and fearlessly.
Yes. Editing. You might think, editing, I've written a damn thing and now I have to edit it. It is the most important part. Editing is the most important part. If you don't edit your book, you'll end up with a big pile of shit. I promise. And all of that hard work that you've put in will just be wasted. Right then.
Right.
Any questions? If you've got any questions at all about writing or publishing a book or anything to do with writing and, marketing and businessing, really, you can email us, vicky@vickyfraser.com, and we will answer your questions.
Excellent.
Yes. Next week, we are going to do a podcast about how to deal with criticism.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Is it slump into the corner of the nearest room and cry?
That's exactly what I do.
Exactly the plan.
Exactly the plan. So that'll be a very short podcast, filled with whimpering and woe. And yeah, so there's a few other things going on in Superheroes Land at the moment.
Okay.
We are off to Portugal for a Breaking Bread Mastermind in July.
Nice.
Which is going to be so much fun. Half the seats are sold. We've got 4 more seats available, I think.
That's not far off now, is it?
No, end of July. So yeah, if you would like to join us in July at Breaking Bread, and the last 3 have been absolutely fantastic, haven't they?
So we've done... Where have we been?
San Diego. Yorkshire. And Canada.
Yeah.
You didn't come to Canada.
I didn't do Canada.
You didn't do Canada. You can come to the next Canada one though. But yeah, we're doing Portugal. We're going to Foz do Aurelio, which is somewhere that I have no idea.
Portugal.
It's Portugal. It's absolutely beautiful, and yeah, all of your accommodation will be included in the price, all of the meals, not all of the alcohol, because last time we did that,
we've done that once,
a bloody fortune. But yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. It's me and Misty. We will be bashing your business to bits and putting it back together again. Basically, you come along with your biggest business challenge, the biggest problem that you want to solve, the biggest thing you want to work on, and Misty and I and the rest of the group will basically bash it into shape, and you'll leave with a plan that you can go away and put into practice and crack on with. I will also be running a little workshop on writing a book, so if you thought you'd always like to write a book for your business, we'll be doing a little workshop on that.
There'll be some interesting people.
There'll be really interesting people.
Interesting people, nice times, good food, probably a bit of wine, some sunshine.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
It's going to be fantastic. And of course, there'll be the magnificent pit crew, which is Joe and Berto.
In our short shorts.
In your short shorts and your pit crew t-shirts, having a little bromance, because you're such good... it was hilarious. When they first met, they just hit it off immediately, and there's the best photo in the world of them having a little cuddle, a little bro cuddle, and it's absolutely plastered. They've been drinking...
I was taking Berto on a tour of the UK via the medium of beer. So we had Cornish ales, and we had Nuki Brown and Guinness and all sorts. It was great.
Berto is Canadian by way of Portugal, so he has not really experienced the British beer phenomenon before. So
he struggled the next day, to be fair.
You broke him. Portugal is going to be really good fun. It's at the end of July. If you would like to go, the link will be in the show notes. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've got a sensible short link for it. So the link will be in the show notes, or you can email me, vicky@vickyfraser.com, for more details. It's going to be very affordable.
Yeah. This isn't about making money. This is about meeting interesting people.
It is, yeah. So we're covering our costs, making sure that we can pay for our own travel and all the rest of it through the fees. But this is not a $5,000 or a $10,000 mastermind. It's very affordable. So if you've always thought you would like to get away, and getting away somewhere different and a little bit exotic to work on business is such a valuable thing to do. If you would like to do that, you've got 2 or 3 months to how long 3 or 4 months to save up. We can put together a payment plan for you if you think you're going to struggle to pay all at once.
But you need to get in. You need to book it.
You need to get in. There's 4 places left. It's been sold out every time we've done it so far. In fact, we've oversold it a couple of times by accident. So we're not doing that again either, because that was quite stressful.
All right.
And finally, if you've listened to every episode, email me with your postal address and I will send you a special gift. And if you like this podcast, please go to iTunes and subscribe and rate us and review us.
Excellent. 5 stars.
5 stars. And share it. If you know someone who will enjoy it, send them to vickyfraser.com/podcast.
Excellent.
And I would just like to thank, 'cause I haven't done this for a while, thank you so much to Podfly for being magnificent in their editing and stitching together and doing of things, and patience when I send it to them last thing on a Tuesday evening. And thank you to Harriet, who does all of my clever social media stuff for me.
Yay.
Yay. And we'll be back same time next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.